You won't believe these aircraft actually took off. Built by bold creators with no big budgets, these flying machines break every expectation of what a plane should be. From backyard runways to improvised cockpits, each one pushes the boundaries between madness and genius. Get ready to meet some of the most unusual aircraft that ever left the ground, because aviation gets wild when limits are ignored. Zeru, a young Ethiopian dreamer, saw his hopes of becoming a pilot crushed when aviation school rejected him for being just under the minimum required height. At 5 feet 6 inches, he was 1 inch too short. But instead of giving up, he chose to take flight on his own terms. With a symbolic goal of flying to his own wedding, Zeru began building his own plane. For him, proving that passion beats measurement became the mission of a lifetime. With no formal training, Zeru scavenged secondhand parts and installed a Volkswagen Beetle engine in his homemade frame. His only teacher was YouTube, where he studied aviation mechanics and DIY aircraft builds. In his backyard, he crafted a bare-bones plane with no protective shell, no luxury, and 0 reinforcements. The final product looked more like something from 1903 than a modern experimental aircraft. On flight day, wearing nothing but a motorcycle helmet for safety, Zeru launched his skeletal aircraft down a makeshift runway. The frame rattled and bounced like a rogue shopping cart, fighting every bump along the way. Just as lift seemed within reach, disaster struck. The propeller shattered mid-run. The aircraft stopped cold. Though grounded, the attempt spoke louder than any words could. Zeru had dared to try what others wouldn't. Though his plane never left the earth, Zeru's story soared far beyond his yard. Like the Wright brothers, he faced failure with resilience and a belief in his dream. His project became more than a machine, it became a message. It showed that even without money, connections, or formal education, someone with vision and grit could inspire an entire continent to dream boldly and build their own future from the ground up. Built in South Africa in 2010, the Mk3 looked like something cobbled together during a rainy weekend in someone's garage. With a sharply forward tilting cabin and boxy frame, it always appeared moments from tipping over. Its no-frills design confused many onlookers who often mistook it for a defunct ground drone. But despite its crude appearance, it packed enough capability to earn respect in the ultralight aviation community. It ran on a Rotax 9.2 engine producing 85 horsepower, reaching speeds of 155 km/h with a max range of about 500 miles. Weighing just 705 pounds empty, it had high-mounted wings supported by metal struts, adding balance and rigidity during rough landings. It handled unpaved runways with ease, enduring dust, rocks, and poor traction. The Mk3 wasn't fast or flashy, but it was built for the reality of flying where runways are rare. Inside, the cockpit was stripped down to essentials. The panel was compact, the controls were basic, and the pilot's seat was often a repurposed car chair bolted directly to the frame. Instruments were mounted using glued acrylic plates and aluminum brackets. While it lacked polish or elegance, it made up for that in rugged practicality. Every piece had a purpose, every bolt served a function, nothing was there for show. In field tests, the Mk3 handled uneven terrain impressively thanks to shock-absorbing landing gear repurposed from a utility ATV. Its under-fuselage airflow created extra lift at low speeds, allowing it to land at under 31 kph hard. Even with strong crosswinds, it maintained remarkable control. It was simple and awkward, but incredibly effective. For a plane that looked unfinished, the Mk3 flew with the confidence of something built to last. Fiseha Bayane, a self-taught Ethiopian inventor, became known for building homemade airplanes using recycled parts and unshakable imagination. Without access to labs or engineers, he turned a modest workshop into a hub of innovation. His mission was clear: make aviation possible for those with limited means. With nothing but determination, Fiseha tackled the sky from the ground up, proving that big dreams don't always need big budgets to get airborne. He used motorcycle engines with just 34 horsepower each, placing them beneath small front propellers. These setups, while underpowered by aviation standards, were a creative solution given his constraints. The fragile prop assemblies looked like they held together more by hope than by hardware. Still, they spun, and they showed Fiseha's sheer willpower in motion. It was ingenuity over polish, pure function driven by heart. Safety measures were nearly non-existent. The pilot's seatbelt was more decorative than practical, and the canopy was paper rather than glass. Each takeoff attempt was preceded by emotional farewells from friends who weren't sure he'd return in one piece. There were no checklists, no wind tunnels, just raw courage and a prayer to stay aloft. For Fiseha, building a plane was about spirit, not regulation or recognition. Though he has yet to achieve sustained flight, his most recent prototype has improved dramatically in stability and movement. It resembles the Colomban Cri-Cri, the world's smallest airplane, both in size and innovative design. Fiseha's work is more than mechanical, it's inspirational. His aircraft may not have soared just yet, but his vision already has. It proves that creativity, even with scraps, can lift ambition off the ground. Built in New Zealand in 1984, the Snedden M7 was the brainchild of Andrew Snedden, a man with mechanical talent and serious nerve. The aircraft's look was bizarre. A stretched box-shaped fuselage, wings like wooden planks, and an awkwardly oversized vertical stabilizer. On the ground, it resembled a scrap metal art project rather than a functioning plane. Most observers assumed it was a static sculpture, not something that could actually leave the Earth. It was powered by a Continental O200 engine producing 100 horsepower, allowing speeds of up to 130 mph and a range of nearly 500 miles. The aircraft's high wing, supported by steel struts and aluminum brackets, gave it remarkable stability, even in bumpy landings or sudden gusts of wind. With an empty weight of around 1,102 pounds, it handled the unpredictable terrain of New Zealand's rural regions with surprising confidence. Inside, the cockpit was a mix of salvaged parts. Truck relays, boat gauges, and reused bolts held everything together. The seats came from an old Massey tractor, and the pedals looked like they were taken off a child's bike. The control stick was of unknown origin, but it worked well enough. Even the landing gear was made from old farm cart axles, giving the aircraft shock absorption that could survive rough fields and gravel strips. In one of its most unusual missions, the M7 flew with a live goat strapped in the cargo area to simulate livestock transport. The flight included steep turns and a landing on loose gravel. The goat arrived annoyed but unharmed. Snedden joked, "If the goat made it, anyone can." While it looked like a rejected science project, the M7 proved that determination and mechanical skill could defy both logic and gravity, goat included. Daniel Panani, Isaac Oti, and Joseph Sarpong are three young men from Ghana who decided to team up and build a working aircraft from scratch. The idea came from Isaac, who invited his friends to combine their technical skills and childhood fascination with aviation. Since they were kids, they'd been building toy planes and scale models. Years later, their passion matured into an ambitious dream to design a functional airplane with their own hands. They began by building the main structure using square metal tubing. Next, aluminum sheets were shaped to form the wings and fuselage. For power, they adapted a 40-horsepower engine from a Volkswagen car. The process took nearly 10 years, evolving from crude wooden prototypes to a more refined metal design. With limited resources, they used affordable materials and sheer creativity to bring their dream to life step by step. Isaac received pilot training through a program by Ghana's Civil Aviation Authority, which gave him the skills to fly the plane. On November 26th, the trio performed their first official test flight to check speed and stability. Despite minor engine troubles, the results were encouraging. The aircraft lifted off the ground and held promise, proving the potential of the project to advance further with the right support and guidance. Now, the team is seeking institutional backing and sponsorships to keep the project going. Their airplane is more than a machine. It's a symbol of African youth, innovation under pressure, and belief in bold dreams. With dedication, teamwork, and resourcefulness, they turned a childhood fascination into something real. Their story continues to inspire others to push past limitations and pursue big ideas, no matter where they begin. Built in Italy in 1916, The Caproni Ka-3 was a heavy bomber born from the evolution of earlier models in the series. The design aimed to increase power while keeping a trusted structure. The central fuselage housed the crew, while two long side booms supported the twin tail. It was bulky, raw, and menacing for its time, an aircraft that embodied both innovation and brutality during the heat of World War I missions over enemy lines. Powered by three 450 horsepower Isata Fraschini engines, the Ka-3 had two mounted on the side booms and one behind the cockpit, pushing a rear-facing propeller. With this configuration, it could reach up to 87 mm. Its fuel capacity enabled medium-range flights, often carrying deadly explosive loads under the central fuselage, making it a strategic threat from the air in prolonged battle campaigns. Constructed from wood and fabric, it featured fixed landing gear and double wheels under each engine. The crew of four included two pilots, a front gunner, and a rear gunner who stood in a protective cage above the central section. Armed with 2 to 4 Ravelli machine guns and manually dropped bombs, it had enough firepower to disrupt formations and conduct daring runs over fortified zones. In battle, the rear gunner operated from a standing position inches from the rear propeller, surrounded by steel bars forming a protective cage. It offered a wide field of fire but demanded extreme balance. In several missions, the Ka-3 was also used for torpedo launches from naval bases, proving unexpectedly versatile. For an amateur-looking machine, its legacy in combat was anything but. Launched in Germany in 1992, the Sunny Sport looked like it had escaped from an animated film. With an open cockpit, bare tubular frame, and wings shaped like surfboards, it wasn't just a plane, it was a conversation starter. Meant for ultralight flying, it embraced a raw, minimalist design that screamed fun and freedom. You didn't fly the Sunny Sport for prestige. You flew it because you loved the wind in your face and the thrill of a sky with no rules. The engine of choice was the 65 horsepower Rotax 512, allowing it to reach 96 milliliters pH and fly up to 186 miles. Weighing just 353 pounds empty, it could launch from grassy fields or compact strips with barely any runway. Pilots described it as flying a powered hang glider. It responded quickly, moved with every breeze, and gave a thrillingly direct connection between man and machine. Lightweight and nimble, it was made for pure recreational joy. The pilot sat in what looked like a sturdy camping chair, exposed to the elements with no windshield for protection. The control stick was featherlight, needing only 2 fingers to move. On windy days, the aircraft bounced around the sky like a leaf in a storm. But to many, that was part of the charm. It wasn't built for comfort or elegance. It was built for pilots who wanted to feel every shift in the air and enjoy the sky in its rawest form. Among its wildest flight tests was one where a mannequin dressed as Elvis was strapped into the back seat. In another, a tarp was stretched between the wings to test shaded flying, turning the plane into a buzzing, flapping tent. Built in Germany in 1938, the SG-38 was a primitive glider developed for basic pilot training. Its structure resembled a giant kite with a suspended seat, no cockpit, no fairings, and no shelter. Made of wood and fabric, it offered nothing between the pilot and the open sky. Though it looked fragile, its simplicity made it the perfect tool to teach thousands of new aviators the fundamentals of flight during a critical era in aviation history. Despite having no engine, the SG-38 could glide efficiently at 37 mm. It had an 18-meter wingspan and weighed just 265 pounds. The seat was attached directly to the main beam, with basic footrests for stability. Takeoffs relied on elastic cables pulled by ground crews in a coordinated launch. This method required perfect timing and teamwork. It was raw, physical flying. Pilots felt every movement, every gust, every inch of lift. Control response was slow but smooth. Its oversized ailerons took up much of the wing's trailing edge, allowing easy lateral adjustments. The elevator sat high on the tail, similar to modern glider designs. Though basic, the SG-38 proved reliable and widespread, used extensively until the end of World War II. In good conditions, skilled pilots could ride thermal updrafts and stay aloft for minutes with no engine at all. During stability tests, pilots often practiced hands-off flying for over 2 minutes. The glider maintained its path thanks to a naturally balanced design that aligned with airflow. In dry weather, the wood would creak and pop mid-flight, a normal sound in technical reports. Those subtle snaps, combined with the wind's rush, created a soundtrack unlike any other, simple, silent, and striking. The SG-38 was flight in its purest form. Built in Australia in 1965, the Transavia Air Truck looked like a flying forklift drawn by a 5-year-old with no ruler. The cockpit sat high and forward, like an aquarium on stilts, while the squat fuselage and odd wing layout defied all aerodynamics. With its twin-tail boom, stubby nose, and awkward stance, it was easily one of the strangest planes to ever take off. And yet, somehow, it worked. Beauty wasn't the goal here. Pure utility drove every line of its bizarre design. Equipped with a 300-horsepower Lycoming 0540 engine, the air truck could reach 174 mph and cover 560 miles per tank. Its empty weight of 1,984 pounds didn't stop it from hauling heavy payloads, ideal for fast and efficient crop-dusting operations. What it lacked in sleekness, it made up for in function. Its tall cockpit offered excellent visibility, and its structure was built for abuse, not style. In the agricultural world, it became oddly iconic. The chemical hopper sat directly beneath the cockpit, placing the weight close to the center of gravity and giving the pilot a clear forward view. The short lower wings and double tail fins made it look unstable, but flight tests proved otherwise. Pilots appreciated its strange but effective layout. Though engineers often scratched their heads, farmers praised its ruggedness. It wasn't pretty, but it was practical and precise in dirty, low-level jobs. In real missions, the air truck pulled off some wild feats. One pilot dropped buckets of water on bushfires with impressive aim. Another flight carried 12 live sheep in the rear cargo bay, tied down with fishing nets. Despite its sketchy appearance and clunky frame, it flew like a champ. The air truck always looked like it was falling apart midair, but it never did. Somehow, this awkward beast earned its wings and made believers out of skeptics. Built in France in 1953, the HM293 was an ultralight based on Henri Migné's Pou du Ciel concept. It featured a strange overlapping wing setup with fixed landing gear and an airframe that looked like two unrelated airplanes glued together. While odd at first glance, the design followed aerodynamic logic rooted in simplicity. The HM293 became a symbol of how unconventional ideas could take flight when form followed function. Its most common engine was a 50-horsepower Renier, reaching speeds of 75 mph with a range of about 174 miles. The plane weighed under 550 pounds empty. Its most notable feature was its control system. The stick moved only the elevator while the entire front wing pivoted for pitch. This reduced moving parts dramatically and simplified the build, making it a low-maintenance and reliable aircraft for amateur builders. Flying straight was smooth and easy, but turns needed careful control. The front wing could be adjusted on the ground to help balance. Without ailerons, lateral response was limited, requiring extra focus. Takeoffs were possible on runways shorter than 500 feet, even in moderate wind. Its low stall speed made it perfect for casual flights, low and slow, and safe enough for relaxed exploration over quiet countryside fields. During performance trials, the HM293 used a handmade variable pitch wooden prop crafted by hobbyists. Its front wing, with 5 degrees of adjustable incidence, allowed steep flight angles without stalling. It had no traditional rudder, so turns were managed by shifting weight and using pitch control, a rare technique for its time. It flew gently but demanded skill, offering a uniquely technical and rewarding experience for patient pilots. Unveiled in the United States in 1982, the Phantom X1 made its first appearance at the Sun and Fun Air Show, instantly grabbing attention with its bold look and confident performance. It featured a high wing, a fiberglass cockpit, and an aluminum tube frame, light but strong. Designed specifically for the American ultralight category, it fit the bill for pilots seeking low-cost thrills and a taste of flight freedom without complex licensing. Its front-mounted engine drove the aircraft along a central tube frame running to the tail. Weighing just 254 pounds empty, the Phantom X1 could be powered by Rotax engines ranging from 40 to 64 horsepower, reaching top speeds of around 78 meters. Flight range depended on the pilot's weight and engine setup, but its overall efficiency kept it a strong performer in casual and sport aviation scenarios. The wings were covered in pre-sewn Dacron fabric envelopes, supported by cables connected to an inverted V-shaped mast. Later versions replaced the cables with solid struts for added durability. Ailerons ran the full span of each wing, giving precise lateral control. Pilots also loved the folding wing option, which made it easy to transport and store, a major plus for weekend flyers without hangar space. Though originally intended for aerobatics, legal limits kept it from being marketed as such. Still, it was tested to endure up to 9 positive and 6.6 negative Gs before structural failure. In one legendary demo, a pilot spun 3 full rotations on the ground, using only the ailerons in a crosswind. Even seasoned aviators were stunned. Agile, lightweight, and rebellious by design, the Phantom X1 was a thrill from takeoff to touchdown. If there's one thing this video proves, it's that brilliance often lands where no one expects it. Who says only big brands can build airplanes? Sometimes it all starts with a spark, a weld, and a fearless heart ready to chase the sky. Like the video if watching madness take flight makes your day. Subscribe for more unbelievable aviation stories, and comment below which one you dare to fly. Share this with someone whose head is always in the clouds. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.